Thanks.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, Obi-Wan Kenobi is on the run. With Princess Leia in hand, he furiously rushes to get the princess safe to her parents on Alderaan. But he is currently being hunted ruthlessly by Darth Vader. Vader's closing in. All hope seems lost. Should Obi-Wan keep running, or does he face his former apprentice and face the demon that's been haunting him all these years? Welcome everyone to Fake Nerds Watch Obi-Wan Kenobi episodes 5 or parts 5 and 6. I am Ben Magnet, who is still very sleepy because I decided to watch this thing at 2 o'clock in the morning and did not fall asleep immediately after because I got the feels. I am joined by, of course, Brandon T. McClure.
Hello.
And Darth Sparkz and Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Catchphrase.
I just watched this for the first time recently. You watched most of it a second time.
I watched most. Yeah. I did a twofer. I went to sleep late and I woke up early. Feels like shit.
I'm so sorry.
We're doing this one live.
We are
a special live finale. So anyone in the chat, welcome if you guys show up. If not, oh well, watch this later. So what do we think about the final 2 episodes of Obi-Wan Kenobi?
I had a good time. I'm not gonna say I'm fully satisfied, but it was a good meal. I'm not in a negative state with it, but I'm not where I wish I was, and that's okay. Sometimes things can just be pretty good. Not everything can be incredible, and that's okay. Do I wish Obi-Wan Kenobi was more than this is? Absolutely. But with what I got, I'm mostly satisfied.
Sparkz, would you like to go next?
I could say some different words that would basically be saying the same sentences Ryan just said. But
so essentially,
it's just the same thing Ryan just said.
I would also say some words that would rejigger some things that Ryan said.
Bro, I'm so good at this.
So I will only add that while I enjoyed the final 2 episodes quite a bit, I don't think the show was ever going to satisfy me. And that's just kind of where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I'm the complete opposite. I am very satisfied. I had a blast. I especially loved episode 6. I mean, we'll get into it, but I was like, let's just say my young nerd heart was very happy last night.
Ben hears a hello there and freaks out.
Not just that.
Look, I'll be clear. I also freaked out when he said hello there.
It's crazy. One of the most famous characters in history's catchphrases, "Hi."
Well, it's also. I liked it.
It's fine.
Let's start with episode 5, and we'll get to episode 6.
Right?
Can we? I want to know how you guys felt going from episode 5 to 6, because it's one of the things about us doing this in twos that we don't get that moment, because I was definitely not feeling good going from episode 5 to 6. I was nervous as shit.
Yeah, the zoom into Luke, I'm like, wow, I really don't need this at all.
Yeah,
I don't need Luke whatsoever.
Like this last week, I was like, boy, is Kenobi about to shit the bed hard.
Yeah, I was the same way. Going from 5, like where 5 ends, even seeing the resolution in 6, I still don't like it. I think it's honestly pointless. But I was watching how 5 ends with the zoom in on with Reva finding out about Luke, or at least knowing that boy's important, who that boy is.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't need this. I don't need to go to Tatooine again. I mean, like I don't mind going to Tatooine at the end, but I don't need Reva. What are we doing with Reva? Reva should just be dead right now.
With the characters that were given going to Tatooine, if you're gonna do the Tatooine thing, you do it with the characters that are the main characters, right? Like
1000%. That's where I was pretty high on a lot of episodes. I thought episode 5 was a good episode with problems, and I even admit that I think a lot of those problems are just episode 4 is a bad episode, and episode 5 is having to pick up a lot of pieces that it just shouldn't have to. And So I was like, okay, I think I'm feeling okay. And then you get to the end of episode 5 and I'm like, oh man, oh boy, we're in trouble. I'm in danger. I think like a defining thing is that there were people talking about like it felt like there was a plausible reality where Vader and Obi-Wan didn't see each other again in the finale.
Yeah.
Like it felt possible. And I was like, oh man, that's going to be a real mistake.
Yeah.
Because I kept wondering to myself, like, what's the point of Reva finding out about a child on Tatooine that Obi-Wan is protecting if she's not going to tell Vader? What is the, and like I still even in episode 6, I still question the point. Whenever we whenever we bounce back to that part of the episode, I'm like, I don't give a shit.
Right.
I bet we have a lot to talk about in episode 6. So let's just get through 5.
No, yeah. I wanted to get our impressions as we left 5. Because we're not going to get to like really flesh that out.
Yeah, that is one of the downsides.
So I just wanted to know like how were you all feeling? Because like, ooh boy, Ben, you really didn't get to say a lot before we like dive into episode 5.
No.
How were you feeling at the end of it?
At the end of it, I was also kind of scared, and at the same time, I was kind of. It's kind of like we don't need to go to Luke. Do we really have to go? Because I was more focused on Leia. Because I mean, we know what Luke does. Luke's on Tatooine. He's with his uncle. That's fine. I was more interested in Leia. I've been more interested in Leia in this entire show. Like when we first saw Alderaan all the way back in episode 1, I'm like, finally, we can see how Leia's upbringing was. Because I feel like we know all about Luke's upbringing on Tatooine with his uncle and aunt. But we don't know much about Leia's training outside of some ancillary materials.
Luke's was certainly less eventful than Leia's.
Yes, definitely. So when we zoom in on Luke, I was scared that Reva figured it out that Luke was his son. And I didn't know. The other parts of the episode, I was really enjoying seeing Hayden Christensen in his full Anakin costume as a Padawan. I mean, you could tell he's a little bit older, but at the same time,
We'll get to that because that's part of episode 5, the discussion that we should have. But I think we were all in the same place. So let's start with.
I'm glad to know that. I'm glad to know we were all kind of living in the same.
Yeah. Oh no.
Bye.
All right, let's start with episode 5 then. So episode 5 begins with a flashback, but not the one we expected.
I'm gonna be the wettest of wet blankets and say I find the majority of the flashback underwhelming.
No, I'm with you.
It's a lot of factors. It has a point. It has a paralleling point. And I think the ultimate point of what it's going for of like, Anakin, you're too focused on victory. As long as you're focused on victory, you won't be paying attention to other things. And then that being relevant to Vader. Well, because like that's the final point. That's the like the last point that he's making with it. You'll always be a Padawan as long as that. I'm like, that's cool. A+, love that. I've watched that flashback scene cut together as like its own thing. It's like 3 minutes, and that could have just been its own. Like the fact that we're sectioned it out throughout the episode. I've heard other people say like the parallels really work. I don't think they do. I find that the 2 times where we jump back in between, yes, Brandon's one of them who feels like it really works. I don't. I think that the parallels where we jump in between just feels like, cool, back to the lightsaber fight. One of them's got the upper hand now. And back to the modern day story. And back to lightsaber fight. It's the other one that's got the upper hand now. Back to modern day story. And I'm like, it's not fleshing out stuff enough for me. And I'm willing to fully admit that there's an amount of my expectations screwed me on this, that knowing Hayden Christensen was in it, I wanted good flashback material. I thought this was a decent one, but not as much as what I wanted. It didn't give me everything I wanted. And when the episode was done, I was disappointed because I was like, that's probably it. That's probably all the Hayden Christensen flashback stuff we get. And I was like, that's okay.
Yeah. For this show specifically, there's definitely like a checklist of things that the fans want. And I think for the most part, it hits all of them, for better or for worse. The flashback feels like, how do we do flashback stuff, but the cheapest way possible? Just have them duel in the volume. Instead of having, like flashback with clones or other troopers or other Jedi and stuff like that. Like, I understand. Again, I think the parallel works. I don't think it needs to be spread out through the entire episode. That's what I agree with. Because again, flashing back in the middle of it, it's just like they're fighting.
So I will agree to an extent, because as Sparkz said, I like how the flashback is interspersed, and I really enjoy seeing those parallels, and I really enjoy seeing the 2 of them together again. But where I will bounce off of that and say, I do think that there should have been more flashbacks in the show. Just utilize Hayden Christensen if you have him. Utilize him outside of the mask specifically, and I think that the decision to use that flashback to bounce off of Ryan's point is because it's the cheapest way to do it. Because one of the things that really disappointed me about the show, as we got to the end, is quite frankly how cheap it looked.
I'm shocked, Brandon. Like Boba Fett isn't exactly the best looking show either, but like that had like some stuff going on too. I'm like, this should have been like the crown jewel of the Disney Plus shows. This should be the one with the biggest budget. And in episode 5, I didn't notice. We talked about like the ships looking bad in a previous episode that I didn't notice. Noticed it this time though. Definitely noticed it in episode 5. I'm just, y'all got so much money, and it's not. And the thing is, it's not about money. It's about pushing your special effects people past the point that they can't do it in time. And that's the point where we're just at with everything.
The problem is that as I see it is that Lucasfilm is relying too much on the volume. The volume right now, as Lucasfilm has used it in especially these last 2 episodes, is to create fine looking spaceships and flat cityscapes and rocks. And that's all they used.
That's just to bounce off that point. Like, this is why, like, when I finished the finale this morning, like Ryan and I were both like, man, I'm just really excited for Andor, because Andor clearly has sets.
Yes.
We watched the trailer for Andor again.
We rewatched the trailer and I'm like, man, look at those sets. Just look at those.
Look at those people walking in an actual place.
Yeah. I agree 100%. And like, it is kind of that feeling of like, you went about this the cheapest way possible, but it's like I would have been fine with like the meditation chamber, just a conversation between Anakin and Obi-Wan would have been something like I would have been cool with if it would have just been more thoughtful for like. Not that I'm saying like, again, I think that the flashback's point of what it's doing with who he is and that he's too obsessed with victory, I think that all works. It's just, I wanted more out of the show. I wanted more out of the exploration of what they think about each other, what they have thought about each other. Yes, you can say like that relationship has been explored with Clone Wars, but I want to watch these 2 actors do it more.
Yes.
That's the thing. That's what you got me hype about by saying Hayden Christensen was back. And so to get to this, fully acknowledge that when the episode starts and you see the back of him and it pans back, I got the like, aw,
yeah,
I'm here.
100%.
It's so nice. I'm not trying to pretend that didn't work on me. It did. Mm-hmm. It's just not the value of the content that I was anticipating.
And you know what I really appreciated? They didn't de-age the shit out of them.
Me too.
That's the only time having a lower budget actually helped, because like, yeah, he doesn't look like he's 19 anymore. He looks like he's 35. But you know what? I didn't have a problem with it, because that's what acting is. It's not that big of a deal. And I'm like, I'm so glad they just went with it.
I mostly agree. I'd rather have it the way it is than to de-age.
Yes.
I do kind of wish they'd done just a little bit of work only on the forehead.
He definitely looks old.
It's just the lines on the brow that I think are really damning compared to like where he is in Attack of the Clones. When you look side by side, like, I don't mind if you leave the eyes and the mouth alone so they look natural.
Yeah.
All good. I think we could have done just the light work on the forehead and I would have called it like great.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's me. I wanted just that little extra de-aging. I do not think it's a problem. I would rather have it look natural.
Yeah.
That's all good. I will say, like, someone brought up an excellent point. You heard this too, because it was on the Ringerverse. Of where this flashback could exist in the canon of Attack of the Clones specifically. And it's just before he has the conversation with Padme where he's talking about Obi-Wan and saying he's holding me back. And I'm like, that's a really fascinating place to put it. And I get it. I think that vibes. I think that's cool. That's fun. I just wanted more.
Yeah.
And I have a thought of like a specific flashback thing I wish had happened in the show that I will get to later when we're talking about a different character.
And you wanted to say something a little earlier?
I thought I did, but I forgot what it was.
It's okay. Why don't we bounce off the flashback then?
Well, real quick, like, Ben, flashback, how you feel?
Oh, I loved it. Like,
totally pleased.
Yeah, seeing the back of Hayden Christensen. Also, I agree. I did not need him de-aged. I'm glad they didn't do it. And just seeing Obi-Wan and Anakin train on screen again. I mean, I do wish there was more flashback stuff besides just a lightsaber duel. Like what you were saying, Sparkz, about how it's like one has the upper hand, they cut back to the modern times. The other guy has the upper hand now, they cut back, that whole thing. But besides that, just It was just a great seeing Hangerson as Anakin as we remember him again. So that was nice.
Obi-Wan's shitty mullet's back.
Yeah.
I do really like how I've talked about how I do appreciate how the lightsabers look in this show specifically, as opposed to other modern Star Wars properties. I think that you still run into a similar problem that the sequel trilogy ran into, specifically, I think Ahsoka and Mandalorian, where you see how the lightsabers bounce off each other instead of collide. They kind of bounce because they're two like plastic sticks bouncing together. Whereas before they would like collide and you would see like this big flash of light. It's not quite as apparent here because of the way that Deborah Chow is framing it. I think Deborah Chow frames a good lightsaber fight.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the only fight sequences she frames very well. Because I do not like, I really hate the siege. I really hate how that is shot.
I just assumed like this is like I agree with you. I think it's a poorly shot. I like episode 5 enough, but I really don't like it, like the back and forth, and like I have to give you guys time to do this thing. When that happens again in episode 6, immediately again.
It's so shaky. It's so shaky. The it's too close quarters for me to believe that even a stormtrooper who can't see is missing people.
For real.
That's all really valid points. I at least appreciate the shakiness more there. Not that I think it's the best choice. But I still have the problem. We talked about it before, that frenetic camera movement when people are just standing somewhere drives me up the wall. I can't it's not saying anything. I don't get it. Is it supposed to make me feel like I'm a person and I'm there? Because it's just like not working. I don't understand why it's not a still camera.
Yeah, that was annoying.
Born Identity.
Yeah,
and I think that Deborah Chow is a really accomplished filmmaker that I really like, and I really like how she films things. It's just for whatever reason, specifically when the stormtroopers breach the area for the first time, and everyone's huddling, and the way that Obi-Wan is framed, and the way that everything is, it's all so chaotic and really hard to follow. And to the point that someone has asked me, did Tala shoot the thing or did she use the Force? Because we don't see her blaster, and like to me, it's clear that she shoots it.
Oh,
but
yeah.
The fact that it's not, the fact that other people would find that not clear because of the way that whole sequence is framed so honestly so badly, it sucks.
I think one of the things is like they're using the volume, but also it actually looks like they're like in an enclosed set because they're going through somewhere.
Yeah,
like they don't have a lot of room to maneuver for camera work. So like I think they're just like, it was such a tight space, they just maybe they didn't have enough time to figure out better camera angles.
And then you run into the problem because, like you said, it's such a tight space that the stormtroopers are legitimately like this to the people and missing everyone. And I'm like, I understand that the joke is a stormtrooper can't shoot their mark, but are you kidding me?
It's like their helmets are on backwards.
Yeah.
Like I get it when they're like this, but when they're like this, no, stormtrooper is not that incompetent.
Also, of a worthy note of that, this is Obi-Wan's only interaction we're aware of with stormtroopers is in this show. When he says the line in A New Hope, only stormtroopers are so precise. So these should be the most precise stormtroopers you'll ever encounter. And it'd be like they were the exception, not the rule. But Obi-Wan didn't know that.
Yeah. They're not precise at all. They killed 3 people on accident.
They've never been precise. Yeah.
That's funny. I do think, speaking of though, I do think Tala's death works.
Yeah.
I agree, and also wish that they had not done it.
Yeah.
And I think both things can exist. Like, I think that Tala's death is a good moment.
Yeah.
I like it with Ned B. I kind of like it with Obi-Wan. There's an amount where I'm like, Obi-Wan, just like force puller. What are you doing, man?
She could have threw the grenade. I'm just saying.
Like, what are we doing, man?
She could have threw that grenade. I'm just saying.
But, like we see him moments before, and I thought it was Tala because, again, the siege is kind of filmed poorly. I thought it was Tala at first that Obi-Wan goes back to grab before Tala goes down. And then it wasn't. And then, like, he's trying to do the same bit of trying to go grab her. And I'm like, bro, you got the Force. You got the Force. So I didn't like the staging of the moment while I like the intent of the moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
and I'm bummed about it because Tala's someone who I'm like, if she showed up in Andor, I would have thought that was great.
When she didn't die in 4, I was like, cool, she might survive. And like, I really like this character. I love the idea of an Imperial spy, you know, giving Obi-Wan the hope that he needed. Like, oh, if this Imperial can be a good person, like, why am I not doing my job? And I think the sacrifice is like, it is a good moment. But again, I think like if you didn't do it in 4 and then you do it in 5, and I just feel like, yeah, I miss her. I miss her. But maybe that's because maybe that's a good death because you want her to survive, I guess. I don't know.
No, I agree with Sparkz. I think Sparkz is dead on. Like it's a well framed moment, but it doesn't need to happen.
Yeah. I just think I'll say it this way. It's like a good character beat. It's a good moment. It just as you said. I don't think the narrative surrounding all of Tala in the story has supported the weight of it.
Yeah.
I've been
and
pretty negative.
That's part of the bummer.
I've been pretty negative. I want to find a positive.
No, I got a positive. I do got a positive. It's like it's all the hope stuff before the siege about like where he goes to like Jabim. That's what it's called. Jabim?
Yeah, Jabim. Yeah.
And he sees all the lightsabers. He sees the other mural of walls, and he talks to more people. And he talks to Roken. And again, all that stuff I think is really good. Like all the Obi-Wan like getting back to who he used to be through other people, showing him how to do it. All that stuff is good. Like I think all the character interaction stuff's good.
I agree with a lot of that. I think that there's a lot of good moments before Obi-Wan goes to see Reva. There's a lot of stuff where he's talking to Haja, and he's like, why don't we, Leia's like, give me a ladder, and he's like, no, we're not gonna let you go up there. And he's like, no, listen to her. There's that moment that he trusts her, and I think that's cute. I'm curious, will Lucasfilm ever put a cap on how many Jedi survived Order 66?
No.
Yeah, I wonder about that.
The longer we go, just like Superman and Kryptonians, the longer we go on, the more there are going to be.
It's like how there's the legendary Super Saiyan, and then everybody's a Super Saiyan,
and then there's a Super God Super Saiyan.
Because there's apparently someone said that the Arabesh on that wall are names of famous Jedi.
Yeah. Again, a couple of them are Legends characters. Again, like they did that with the last in the Quinlan Voss wall too. So like they're just throwing up every Jedi they possibly can who might be alive.
And I do think it's kind of cool. I've always appreciated ever since Rebels that there were Jedi who survived Order 66. I thought that it was never realistic that every single Jedi was wiped out, no matter how good a clone trooper was. And like I always kind of liked. I was like, okay, well, so how many Jedi are there? I am curious how many there will be, but I also like how they have incorporated the fact that, and this happened in like the Darth Vader comics also, but like the Empire has stopped hunting Jedi and is now just hunting people who are Force sensitive. They're like, there will be no more Force sensitive people ever. Right. And I do like how they've moved on from that. How it's kind of like, it's like, it was just the Jedi who were traitors. Actually, now it's all the Force sensitive people who are traitors.
So the only person who will be left will be Vader and the Emperor, and they will have total power of the universe, of the Force,
Yeah, and I like that kind of background implication.
Sure.
Reva?
Oh, I do like. I actually like the reveal of Reva.
Mm-hmm.
I like the reveal. It's an episode late.
Yeah.
I actually don't know if I agree with that, but I won't push back on that. Let me just. Why don't you say what you want to say about that?
I go back to, I think a lot of episode 5's shortcomings are because episode 4 is bad, and we've talked about this before. Like episode 4 was lackluster. It didn't move anybody's characters' plots forward. Like there is essentially a way that you can watch episode 3 and go to episode 5, and you haven't really missed anything for the characters. Yeah, like nothing changed. I guess Wade died, and that's really hard for everybody.
He was introduced in that episode.
No, that's really hard for everybody. Like we'll all remember him fondly, but like you go from episode 3 to 5, and the characters are not in different places, right? Yeah. Nothing's really changed for Reva, for Leia, for Ben, for Tala. There were nice moments in 4, but it didn't move the story of this 6-episode series forward. So to me, that is where we should have had Reva and Obi-Wan having their wall interaction moment. That all should have been opened up in 4. There should have been something that happened because of Obi-Wan going there that opened that door for the interaction for him and Reva to crack open her story.
Her arc doesn't start until like episode 5. really.
And that's a problem.
It's
I
really,
think that's a
really
problem because like you get to episode 5 and like that's also the episode where she gets down by Vader. I don't really have time to think about how I feel about Reva's backstory or any of that.
She tells us her true motivations, and then 5 minutes later, it's ended. It's very quick. It's a very quick thing. And then episode 6 like doesn't really make me feel any better about it. Also,
I see what you're saying. I don't disagree, but I think I might just like. This is not going to be a rebuttal to your point. This is just going to be my
how you feel, yeah.
My how I feel about it. It's the reveal that it's not a a redemption arc, that it was always her plan to this was always her plan. I do like how they how Obi-Wan figures out that there's no way that someone would know that Vader was Anakin unless they were there and at the temple.
Yeah, sure.
I do.
Go ahead. No, please.
And I do really like invoking the imagery of. It's what they're doing. They're invoking the imagery of school shootings because she's like, I saw him slaughter my friends, my family, and I laid there amongst the cold body, feeling the bodies go cold. And I think that's all really effective and really effective dialogue. And Moses Ingram is good at delivering that dialogue. Mm-hmm. Even going so far as to point out, like, she also blames Obi-Wan. She like Anakin was Obi-Wan's fault in her mind.
Right. And the emotions there are really good between both characters. I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. And you see more, and you get the thing of like, do you really want, because like she says it accusatorily, do you really want to kill Anakin Skywalker? And like, she knows that Obi-Wan doesn't.
Yeah.
But she does.
I agree about everything you just said. Mm-hmm. I just think it should have happened in episode 4.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's where I sit, and it like part of it is because nothing happened in episode 4. That's part of it, but part of it is also that fundamentally, like with Reva's story, I think it just in general took too long to get to this point. We all clocked that she was the youngling in episode 1 from the jump. Mm-hmm. Like that's the opening of the series, and I think it just takes too long to pay off on that opening. And tell us about Reva. It's a disservice to the character and to the actor because I think Moses Ingram is doing a great job. And we just get lore dumped in episode 5. She's just an unknown entity to us through the first few episodes and just bad, without complexity, without introspection. And then you get all this thrown at you in episode 5. I would have rather the version where we come into episode 5 knowing this information about her, knowing that interaction, and there's two things happening. Like we're thinking about what is Obi-Wan going to do? Does Obi-Wan want Anakin dead? And what is Reva going to do? We now know Reva's plan. How are these two going to collide on Jabim in episode 5? That's how we should have been going into episode 5 thinking about it. But we didn't. They put that all here, and I wish that Reva in general had been better explored in this show. Because she isn't.
I'm going to go on a quick rant and real quickly and just bounce off what you're saying by saying the fact that like this is the issue with Disney Plus right now. All of their shows are like this. Their Marvel and Star Wars shows are all like this, and it's getting ridiculous, and I'm sick of it. Quite honestly, my issues with Obi-Wan are my issues with every Marvel show. And what?
This should have been a movie.
And Boba Fett, and it's not necessarily Mandalorian, but I guess even the second season still rubbed me the wrong way, though I can't remember why at this point. But like it's the idea of like, okay, we go along for 3 episodes and we ask the audience some questions, and then the 4th episode we don't do anything, and then the 5th episode we answer all the questions, and then the 6th episode we just do a finale. I'm sick of it. That's not how you do a TV show. A TV show, especially a serialized television show, is supposed to take you along a journey, ask questions, answer them, ask questions, answer them, ask questions, answer them, all leading to the big moment at the end that finally creates the big dramatic moment. Just look at freaking Stranger Things. Any season of Stranger Things will tell you the same, will tell you how to structure a serialized television show, even if they aren't even that good. It's the fact that we're still doing this, that Disney Plus refuses to learn from the same mistakes every single time, and I'm honestly so tired of it. It's honestly why I don't trust Miss Marvel, because how many episodes of Miss Marvel are we going to get to before we just have a shit episode?
That's I just don't understand where the 6-episode line was drawn? Why did they decide this was the model for everything?
Well, and I think
I
like
just don't get it.
I think that's one of the reasons why Mandalorian stands apart, right? Because it
It's like
doesn't obey
8.
that rule.
Yeah.
It's like
true.
7 and 8. Those are its seasons. 7 and 8. Boba Fett even didn't obey that rule.
Yeah.
Boba Fett had different problems.
Yeah.
Boba Fett had different problems, you're right.
Mandalorian also has different problems, but that's because they're not hindered to this structure.
Yeah.
And I think like it's weird because I remember when we were talking about 1 and 2, and I was like, this feels like this is fleshed out character stuff. This feels like this couldn't have been a film.
Yeah.
And now here we are at the end, and I'm like, this probably should have been a film.
Because it's like it's so easy to start strong, and then when you have to take your 1.5 to 2 hour movie and turn it into 6, like you just something's getting stretched. Unfortunately, no matter what, good or bad, stuff just has to get stretched because like
but the problem is that like I don't even think that's necessarily the case, because what we're coming out of here with is that like I say Reva's underdeveloped. That shouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
That like again, we're talking about episode 4 did nothing.
Yeah.
People
It's
used to
not
make
they were stretching the story but not expanding the character.
Yeah.
people used to make 22-hour seasons that were serialized.
Mm-hmm.
And those are structured better than a 6-hour limited series that we just watched.
I would say it's growing pains, but we've been doing this for a while now.
At this point, the growing pains should have been wiped away.
Yeah.
Ben, you're falling asleep. Say something.
I really don't know much. I don't have much to say about Reva. I mean, I
That's
did
the problem.
You just do you just like no Ben, like for real, like do you just accept her as she is and that's fine? Like you don't find a problem. You just think she like how do you feel about this character?
I mean, I like the reveal, but part of me, now that what Sparkz is saying, that the reveal probably should have come a little bit earlier, I'm like, you know, that probably would have been better. If it maybe it would have been better if her reveal that she is hunting down Vader, she was the one hunting, or she's trying to hunt down Vader. She's doing this so she can kill Vader because she knows who he is. Because that was the one thing about episode 2 that kind of, if there was one big nitpick that I had from episode 2, it was the fact that Reva told Obi-Wan that Anakin is alive. Because everything about that was like, but in every other Star Wars thing I know of, no one knows who Anakin is. Tarkin figures it out, but he figures it out because, you know, he's freaking smart.
No, Tarkin figures it out because he served with Anakin in the Clone Wars.
Oh, well, there you go.
He was Anakin's general.
And we hypothesized at that moment when we talked about episode 2 that was probably Reva is the youngling. That was more evidence of that, and that she saw Anakin and heard him called Vader, or put 2 and 2 together from that. Like we hypothesized, and that was correct. Continue with you.
I do like the scene. I like how it was acted. I like how it was performed when Obi-Wan and Reva are at the wall, and he's like, "Oh, so that's how you know you were there." And I mean,
know what
I
ticked
like
me
that.
off, Ben, real quickly? What ticked me off about episode 2 wasn't necessarily the Reva reveal. It's the fact that the Grand Inquisitor got stabbed.
Real quick. Oh, you want to talk about stabs, Brandon? So Reva gets stabbed as a child, survives. Reva gets stabbed the second time, same spot, survives. Grand Inquisitor gets stabbed in the stomach, survives. Qui-Gon's a bitch. Qui-Gon Jinn is a bitch. Are you kidding me? The fact that they did that 3 times in the show is so insulting. Come on.
I'm only going to push back on this because I agree with your point, but I'm only going to push back on saying I don't necessarily think that Reva got stabbed as a child. I think that is her projecting Anakin's face onto Vader, stabbing her in the present. I don't think it's a memory. That's how I read it anyway.
You don't think she got attacked by Anakin?
I think what she said. I don't have any reason to believe that what she said was a lie. That she pretended to be dead in that moment. That she pretended to hide amongst the bodies.
She got stabbed and survived, and then hid to make. That's what.
But she doesn't say she got stabbed.
I know she doesn't, but like visually, we see Anakin stab her.
No, but I don't think that's a memory. I think she is projecting Anakin Skywalker stabbing her in the present.
Okay.
I don't want to get into an argument about that because I honestly don't give a shit that much.
Brandon,
it's not an argument.
I'm not going to argue with you. Just let me respond to it, please.
Okay.
It's not an argument. I think that that's a valid read. I just don't know that the show ever convinced me it had the narrative subtextual runway to support it.
Yeah.
I don't think that's an invalid read. I get where you're coming from now that I'm thinking about it. I just don't know that the show ever tried to convince me that they were doing something that way.
Mm-hmm.
To me, the visual is played literal. I see where you're coming from.
At any rate, we see two people get stabbed in this. They're even without my read, we see two people get stabbed in this with my read, whatever. I don't think we're at a point where we've seen Darth Maul live from getting cut in half, sure, but we are now seeing too many people come back from the dead with no extraneous circumstances. Because Maul had spider legs. All right. His hatred kept him alive with spider legs, whatever. He used the Force, whatever. All we get from the Grand Inquisitor, by the way, I watched an episode of Rebels. I hate this guy. All we got was the Grand Inquisitor just being like, "Oh yeah, revenge."
Mm-hmm.
Whatever.
I just want to clarify, are you saying you hate this guy because of the performance inconsistency?
Are you kidding me? You had Jason Isaacs in Rebels, and you have this guy do this bad Christopher Walken impression?
Yeah, I that rumor of his brother was going to come take over and it's Jason Isaacs, like that would have saved this show for me probably if he showed up. Holy shit. But no, it's the guy who's like this. Yes.
I
he's
did
like the
not
guy Smithers.
I don't care for his performance as the Grand Inquisitor.
He's Mr. Burns.
At all.
Smithers.
I think there's just no value in stabbing and having the Grand Inquisitor and thinking that we kill, like she could have just left him. Like, I don't know why she could have just gone around his back while he was doing something else. Like, I don't understand why we had to go so far out of our way to like fool half of an audience that he was dead while half of an audience knew he wasn't.
That's the thing. Like,
and like
the decision to do it in the first place is just weird.
Here's the thing, like, because Brandon brought up very well, like Darth Maul, even Qui-Gon, like to an extent, right? Like the dying or being resurrected served great narrative story. Mm-hmm. Qui-Gon not making it is an important narrative beat that is fleshed out throughout the rest of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Darth Maul coming back, also great narrative beat fleshed out throughout the rest of Star Wars.
Yeah.
The Grand Inquisitor getting stabbed, not. Reva should have just died. Honestly, Vader should have just killed her at the end of episode 5. I care no bit whatsoever about her story in episode 6, and we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But like, not even a little. She should have just died.
I actually full-heartedly agree with that. If there's one, jumping ahead to episode 6 a little bit, if there's one thing I did not enjoy much about episode 6, it was Reva.
Ben,
not to say that Most Ingram is a bad actress. She was amazing in the role. I loved her in the role, but lordy, did I not care.
And the thing is, like, we'll talk about episode 6. Like, not every character should get redeemed. Not every character needs to be redeemed. It would have been a good arc if she died the way that when she got stabbed, because that was her arc. She was going to be a bad person and she failed. She should have been
she was a bad person.
She was a bad person. She's been an Inquisitor this entire time. She's been how many people has
for
she
the
killed?
Death of so many.
How many children has she possibly killed or brought in? She was going to torture and kill Leia potentially. We saw her torture Leia, and then we'll talk about episode 6. Yeah. We saw Darth Vader do. Oh, I do have a strong positive. The fight against Reva I think is cool.
Oh yeah.
It actually has my favorite moment in maybe all of live action TV Star Wars. When he takes her lightsaber, breaks it in half, throws it on the ground for a duel. That's the coolest thing Darth Vader has ever done. That is the coolest, so sick. Because he's fighting like one-handed, like a badass with the Force. Like
he's playing with his food.
It's so sick.
The moment that Vader is everything up until the Grand Inquisitor shows up, from Vader on the ground to when the Grand Inquisitor shows up, I think is really great.
Yeah.
I really like seeing Vader pull down that ship and just his anger, just like, no, you're not getting away from me this time, and ripping it open like I've got you, and then seeing the other ship fly off. I think that's all good.
Was on that ship.
I had a Chewie moment for sure. Definitely had a Chewie moment, but yeah.
Yeah, the Chewie. Here's the thing: the Chewie moment is worse to me because at least I saw the other ship.
Sure.
In the establishing shot of Jabin.
Yeah,
at least I knew the other ship was there.
Right.
You don't in in Rise of Skywalker.
I'll be honest, like I don't really have a problem with the ship thing and there being a second ship and them taking off. What I have a problem with is that like I don't know what the plan was. Like Obi-Wan's like, I'm surrendering myself. And then
he doesn't.
He doesn't, and he gets on the ship. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know what the plan was here, but okay.
That could have just been cut. Probably.
Yeah. That was weird to me. It didn't make sense. I have no problem with like once Vader grabs the ship with the Force, yanks it down, like, and there's a second ship. Like I don't give a shit. Like that is the whole point of the flashback, right? He's so focused on victory, he's not thinking.
Yeah.
So he doesn't notice the second ship. Works for me, baby. I have no issues with it.
And then then you get to when Reva attacking him and he's just attacking her with the Force is excellent. Even until like what I really like the Inquisitor's lightsabers just in general, and I really do like how they show that they can split in two. And it is a little, I saw the tweet that I think Ryan liked where it was just like, how do we have a show with Inquisitors and we didn't get one helicopter lightsaber? Are you kidding me?
They lied to us. They said there was a helicopter in the show.
Yeah.
They straight up said it.
I know, and I'm so upset about that. But you know, the whole fight, because he's like, I'm not gonna waste my lightsaber on you.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm gonna do this. The whole thing. Excellently choreographed, excellently
great Vader fight. Honestly, such a good fight because of the way he handled it. That's all the more reason why I'm like, she should lose here.
Yes.
Like this was that's the lesson, right?
Yes.
She was so consumed in her vengeance that this is where it brought her to, and she loses. It's tragic, but that's where she should end because she's done all these shitty things just to get to this moment, and it wasn't worth it. None of what she did was worth it. It bothers me that she gets to continue on past this moment, frankly, because it doesn't make sense. Now, there are some people, their hearts swoon when they see Hayden Christensen at the open of this episode. There are other people whose hearts swoon when Vader grabs that second lightsaber and takes an Ahsoka stance. And that's me, baby. That's me.
Yeah, that was sick. Yeah.
That's me going, Hayden Christensen watched all of Clone Wars.
I real quick, unrelated but related. I watched a behind the scenes of Revenge of the Sith, the video game, and Hayden Christensen did mocap work for like the guy, and he's like, "This is what I want my like standing stance to be." And he's like, "Boom," and I'm like, "You nerd, you nerd." I love it.
Yeah, I really just can't praise that Vader sequence enough. Quite honestly, it saved the episode for me.
Yeah.
1000%. Like I came out of that on such a high.
Yeah. Real like doing the Force stuff, and then he takes the saber, breaks it in half, and I'm like, man, that's so cool. God,
so
Vader is so sick. I love it. When Vader's high, he's so high. I love it.
Right. And it does feel like we're bleeding it a little bit, but like it does feel like that's the thing, right? He just wipes Reva, and so like that's who's going after Ben in the final episode. That should be your focus. Is those two coming at each other, because that's a big opposing force coming in on Obi-Wan.
I'm just saying, you market your finale as the epic action-packed final episode. I just kind of want more action, but that's just me.
Well, why don't we get into episode 6? Because I'm done with 5.
I'm not done with 5. Sorry.
No.
I do want to touch on a couple of things. Is Bail suddenly the dumbest mother effer in the galaxy?
Oh God, Bail.
Oh, I'm actually really glad you brought this up. How the hell does Bail know about Vader?
I can buy. You and I talked about this off mic, right, Brandon? That was you and me, because you were trying to find like the way this was possible, and realized it wasn't.
Yeah.
Which is Brandon's suggestion was that there's a moment in episode 2 where Obi-Wan tells Leia, "I contacted your parents, told them you're okay," and he's like, that could have been when he told him that Vader was after him. Like he didn't know yet. So how does Bail know that Vader's out there?
Wait, does Bail not know?
That's the whole thing, right? Like, why would Bail know, but not tell Obi-Wan? That's the conversation point.
Why would Bail not tell Obi-Wan, "Hey, if you go out there, by the way, your old apprentice is probably going to find you"?
But
because he says, if he finds the children, if he finds the boy, he knows Vader. He knows that Vader's there. The Senate specifically does not know about Darth Vader, because otherwise they would immediately seek to depose Palpatine. That's why Palpatine kept Vader a secret for 20 years.
That makes sense. I just assumed because Obi-Wan like gave the kids to Bail that he told Bail. Oh,
Right,
but he doesn't know
Obi-Wan,
either yet.
But Obi-Wan thinks Anakin stayed.
Oh.
So, like, Bale knows Anakin became Darth Vader. He doesn't know that he's alive.
Weird.
So this is the problem, and like
Yeah.
the subtext you have to kind of run with is that at some point after that moment, Obi-Wan called again, but like it's off screen.
Either show me that, or you need a scene where Obi-Wan confronts Bale and says, "Why the hell didn't you tell me?"
Yeah, both of those things, because like Bale could have heard secondhand information, and like most people would think, as people have said, like some people maybe have the name and say Vader, but like it's a ghost story kind of thing, but not to Bale, because Bale knows what that means. But he can't reveal that he knows what it means, so he just has to be afraid of it.
Weird.
And I can even buy him not wanting to tell Obi-Wan to not put that burden on him, because it's not going to matter. That like as long as he's not getting close to the children, it doesn't matter.
The younglings.
But none of that context is there, and let's even put that aside. That's a stupid message. Why would you give so much information? Let me name the farmer. Let me name the planet.
Because a bad politician.
I'm sure you listen to The Ringer where it's like, well, the reason that why this message had to be so shitty is that's why Leia's so informal.
Yeah.
And she's leaving the message for Obi-Wan in A New Hope, because you can't give too much personal information or this shit happens. But it's so stupid. The message is stupid because it's giving too much information, and it only exists to serve a subplot I don't care about. So it's all just bad. It's all just forced bullshit to put Reva on Tatooine, and I don't give a shit. Yeah. I don't give a shit. It shouldn't have happened. It's stupid.
It really, episode 6, half of it I enjoy. It really bums me out that the Reva subplot gets almost as much time as the Obi-Wan subplot in this episode. The focus of the episode should have been them two fighting, our Obi-Wan and Vader, and like even the Reva stuff could have been handled. I guess even if you want to still do that, just don't make it like as vital as the Vader stuff, because it begins and it's in the middle and it's the end. The Vader fight's in the middle and it's like 10 minutes long, and I'm like, this is what I came here for. I want more of it, but that's just me being greedy, I guess.
I think if there's any more about episode 5, I think we should move into episode
1 thing real quick. Yeah, and I'm not trying to pile on the negatives, and it's really not a negative. It's really just more of a like, I think this would have been a better way to go. I think it's cool. We want to give Leia something to do. I think that's fun. What in the world means that Leia should know how to fix the electrical wiring in the vent?
Oh my god.
Here's my thing. There was a much better way to engage Leia that I think could have like paid into who she becomes. Like her trying to support others or learning from Tala how to be a leader to the people that are in there, to deepen that connection, and kind of like, rather than Leia feeling like, I think this girl's great, I love that Leia's in the show, rather than Leia feeling like she's already everything she's going to be and more, have her learn a lesson. Ben, you with us?
Yep, still here.
Okay. Have her learn a lesson so that it's something like building to who she becomes, and it makes that Tala connection deeper. I just think that would have been more engaging than the vent thing.
No, that's me. It feels like she has to go to school for 3 weeks, so we can't use her for 3 weeks. What can we do? We'll put her in a vent and forget about her for half the episode. That's what it felt like to me. Because like she spent a lot of time in there, kind of just doing nothing, and I'm like, all right, that's fine, I guess, whatever. It's cool. Lola's
not
cool.
Not a negative. It's more just a. I wish the Tala thing was deepened a little more, considering where they ended it.
Sure.
True. Yeah.
And now episode 6. Now I'm with Brian. I agree that I'm greedy. I want to see a much longer Obi-Wan Darth Vader fight. I can see the idea because the Obi-Wan Darth Vader fight in Revenge of the Sith is also intercut with the Yoda and Palpatine fight. So like I can see where you want to make that parallel. But whatever the hell Reva is doing on Tatooine is not more interesting, or even half as interesting as the Yoda versus Palpatine fight.
No.
And as much as I like the Obi Vader fight, like I don't think it looks great. The Reva shootout with all of them and the run into the canyon, awful. Just looks awful. It's just so dark. It's just like. It's the worst the show looks. And it's the final episode. And I'm just like, watching it a second time, I was bored out of my mind.
I'd rather trade out all of the Reva on Tatooine stuff for another flashback.
Absolutely.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know why that's not what we're doing. Like, why are we not doing another thing about Obi-Wan thinking about Anakin? Why are we not chasing that story of like, what does Obi-Wan want the outcome of this to be? Is he trying to save him? It's not quite clear. Just as you said, Brandon, that's what you wanted, and it's not made clear.
That's the thing where I don't think it is. I don't think he is approaching Vader trying to save him.
Right.
Like there's a world where I'm kind of okay with that story, with the story of, well, he's going to come after me, so I'm going to save you guys. And it's a sacrifice that he's like, you have spent 10 years saving Jedi. Now let me return the favor. I'm into that. I'm okay with that. But there's no moment where there's two things that there's two things that I wish had happened in this episode. When Obi-Wan is looking at his saber and he's like, "This is it, Master. It's either I die or he dies. It's either that." I think honestly, Qui-Gon should have come there, approached Obi-Wan there and said, "He's not lost.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Brandon,
Anakin's not lost."
Mm-hmm.
There are several moments in this episode that I was like, "Here comes Qui-Gon."
Yeah,
and so and the other thing, barring that, if you don't want to do that, then I think when he breaks his mask, which I'm glad they did that sequence, when he breaks his mask, he should reach out to Anakin and be like, "Anakin, I'm sorry. Come back."
Thank you, Brandon. Yeah, so I talked about this with Sparkz real quick. I'm an original trilogy stan. I eat that shit up. I think the stuff that they've led up into A New Hope, I think they do very well. But there's also other movies that dive into maybe Anakin's redeemable. And in Return of the Jedi, Vader says, "Obi-Wan once thought like you did, that I could be saved." There was none of that in this episode or in this show. And I just wanted even one line, Brandon, like you said, like, "I'm sorry, like, it's not too late, like, there is a path, Anakin, we can do this." Any single line, and they don't give it to us. And I'm kind of shocked.
Because then the line, "You didn't kill Anakin Skywalker, I did," would ring more true, because we'll see Obi-Wan reach out, be like, "Anakin, please. Like, come back to the light. It's not too late. We can fix this. We can change this." And then he has that line. And then Obi-Wan says, "Well, then my friend is truly dead. Goodbye, Darth." Like, which I like all that. And I like everything that's said in there. It's just that one, I just needed that one extra line to really like push that button in,
But like, I agree. Like, in the structure of what this episode is, yes. But also lose all the Reva stuff and actually make it about these two, which is what this episode and this show should be about.
Yeah.
Like, there's no version. I don't even, like, even if I thought there was a chance Luke was in danger, I still wouldn't give a shit about leaving this fight.
No.
Like, it's about Anakin and Obi-Wan. What are you doing? Why are you cutting away? Nobody gives a shit. And if you are cutting away, it should be to flashbacks. It should be to moments about them.
Yeah.
Not about Reva and Luke, who, how the F, as injured as she is, did she get to Tatooine that goddamn fast?
Dude. She has, and like, good on Owen and Beru for fighting as good as they did. But man, that lady, she should not be walking. Are you kidding me?
Okay, so I want to touch on the main thing that pisses me off about the Reva Tatooine thing. I have zero qualms with every decision they've made with Leia as far as like the canon of the original trilogy. I'm like, all of this vibes for me. I can see the relationship between them and it not being acknowledged as deeply in A New Hope, and I still believe that it happened and it all works and it's cohesive. I am not a person who has a problem with the way that she addresses him in the hologram or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it all works in canon. You know what I have a problem with? The fact that Luke didn't question why a big lady with a lightsaber showed up chasing him out of his home.
Yeah,
So-
they don't talk about it.
So it's because he doesn't see her.
Sure, except for
And-
that shot where he's running through the desert and there's a red lightsaber glowing behind him.
The only thing you can see.
See, that's the thing. They try to frame it not very well. That he has no reason to believe this isn't the Tusken.
Sure.
And I don't think it's done well. I don't
No.
think it's quite clear that that's what's happening. And if you need to play those types of cinematic gymnastics, then you should not have even attempted to put that story in this movie, in the show.
Exactly.
It's pointless because, like, Luke can't know too much or about the Force before A New Hope, right? And that's fine. Like having this like fake cat and mouse game of where he doesn't know what's chasing him and like he gets force thrown to get knocked out. So the entire scene is just pointless regardless. I'm just like, man.
It's the whole problem with like what we said, like leaving episode 5 when it ends on the zoom in shot of Luke and like the very hilarious headline that went around like, will Obi-Wan Kenobi kill Luke Skywalker?
So fun.
Like, what?
There's
history.
Like, come on, like there's I've said before, like I think that you can do prequel stories that can explore the depths of characters and their relationships and the tensions between them and the drama without having to know will they live or not through this story.
Yeah.
But I think Luke was pushing that line a little bit. Like putting Luke in danger was pretty dumb. Especially when it's supposed to be like the high tension thing you're cutting to away from Anakin and Obi-Wan fighting, which is what everybody came to watch the show for anyway.
Yeah.
What a bafflingly stupid decision about a character who's not explored enough for me to give a shit about anyway.
There's one line of dialogue that I actually do want to highlight, just to kind of put a little sprinkle of a positive in this negative sandwich. A little positive bay when Beru berates Owen when Owen is like, I can't find Ben, and Beru is like, well, whose fault is that?
Right. I thought that was great too. You know what I also was a line I didn't like was that was where Beru's like, no, this is our home, we've got to defend it. I'm like, there's a lady with a lightsaber coming, you take the boy and you leave for a week or a month and then you come back, they won't still be looking for you.
They did a Home Alone Skyfall.
Just go on vacation and come back, they will not still be here.
I do like there's honestly things that I like with Owen and Beru in this episode, and none of them have to do with Reva. But let's talk about something else.
Ben, go off on episode 6.
Yeah, so I love the fight between Vader and Obi-Wan. I thought it was a great finale. I do agree, Brandon. If there was a part where Qui-Gon should have showed up before, spoilers, he shows up. If there's a part where,
if you're watching this and you didn't realize we were spoiling the whole thing, you should not be watching this.
Well, if you blinked, you might have missed it.
It's true.
Yeah. It should have been where he's like, "It's time, Master." It's like, I was like itching. I was like, "Come on, Qui-Gon, show up. Tell him that he can still be saving," and then he doesn't. Like, maybe we won't get Liam Neeson in the show after all. And that wasn't gonna be the worst thing in the world for me. But the whole fight. And the thing about that scene where he cuts the helmet and you see Hayden Christensen in the burnt makeup, I love that scene so much.
Boy, do I got a show for you, sir. It's called
Rebels.
Watch Rebels. I loved it when it was in Rebels, too.
Yeah.
And see, like, it is a good scene, but I have seen it before, which again is something live actions, they want to make it real,
Well, but it's not even that. It's kind of goes back to the thing where I talked about, like, I like the idea that Obi-Wan and Ahsoka both tried to bring Anakin back before Luke is destined to do so. Because it's not their destiny to do so, it's Luke's. I like that. So I like the parallel of breaking the mask and having Hayden's voice with James Earl Jones' voice instead of Matt Lanter's voice. That's great. I'm so into that.
I love that. I love that bit. I love where his voice is cutting in and out.
Yeah. I thought that was really good. And Ewan is selling the scene.
Oh, yeah.
He's selling the scene hardcore. Absolutely.
Yeah. And also, I mean, right after the episode, I went to Twitter and someone said that there was a great cinematography shot where when Anakin's saying, "You didn't kill Anakin Skywalker, I did." Like, when he says you didn't. Yeah, the lightsaber colors, you see blue because that was Anakin saying, "I'm done." And then Vader comes in with the "I did." I thought that was like, that's so damn good. I just love that part.
I actually have no issues with their fight, personally. I think it is kind of funny that their fights keep getting in less interesting situations.
Yes.
The first fight they ever did was on Mustafar. The second fight was on a rock planet, and then the third fight's in a hallway.
That is. I do have an issue. I think the fight choreography is great. I think it being in a disgustingly brown rock world where you have to focus on the lightsabers because otherwise there's literally nothing appeasing to look at is a problem. I still think that's a problem. I thought after the first fight they had in the quarry, they would be like, "Oh, the final fight. I don't need it on Mustafar, but I need it with somewhere that I like looking at." Because otherwise, I'm just like, it's something that bothers me. I know it doesn't bother everyone, but like I like to be like pleased watching shows, and, like with my eyes, and like sometimes the show is like ugly. It's just straight ugly.
You essentially want it to look like the lightsaber equivalent as good as Godzilla versus Kong in that.
Oh god!
In the end of that movie, where you can clearly see everything, and it's at night, and it looks very good, and it's very clear. Like you want it to be that level of equivalent visually.
I do think that there is a idea that they had, which was, well, we can't put it on something as interesting as Mustafar because of budgetary reasons or because of narrative reasons or whatever, and we can't put it in a hallway because that's their final fight. So where should we do it? I don't think the middle ground is Rock Planet. And I think probably the middle ground was somewhere else that they should have landed on.
Is Tatooine the answer?
I wish it had been dusk instead of night. I think honestly, lighting. Lighting is part of the problem.
Absolutely, 100%. It's just super dark. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think you should do Tatooine because it's very important that Darth Vader doesn't go back to Tatooine.
I agree. I don't think it should be.
Tatooine. I'm just raising the question where a potential other place that we could do.
This is what we talked about last time. Is we're like, where could they possibly go that would have meaning? And the answer is like, it doesn't necessarily need to have meaning as long as the character stuff has meaning, and it does. But the lighting should have been better.
Yeah.
And I think like setting it at dusk instead of night would have been a good choice. Or even dawn would have been interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It should have been on the grass fields of Naboo with those giant elephant monsters.
Naboo would have been wild. Naboo would have been interesting. No, that's not technically where they first met, but it's like harkening back to their first mission together.
I'm just trying to think somewhere Padme's there.
There's something to that at least. I remember we joked about like that they're on like the mountains of Alderaan, like just overlooking the city.
Bale's like, what the hell?
I understand wanting it to be dark so you can see the lightsaber glows and everything because that looks very good. But like, we didn't need like pitch black dark. We could have done like, some amount of sun creeping in. Like,
there's a cool moment where Obi-Wan raises a bunch of rocks, but it's like, especially in the kitchen where we were watching it, like. There's a glare. It's kind of like a glare, so it's like it's even all worse. Just brown, lots of brown happening, lots of black and brown. And I'm just like, the lightsabers are off. It's ugly.
There are things. So there's other things that I want to just like highlight about the fight that I liked, which was, what you know what, I'll bounce off of what you said when he's holding the rocks with the Force. I do really like that he's hearing dialogue that has happened before between him and Anakin, and even Qui-Gon I think gets a line in there. I think all that's cool. I also, I don't need a major Force power to happen, but I'm not opposed to Obi-Wan just lifting a bunch of rocks and throwing them at Darth Vader. Yeah. That's pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie.
That was very tough of him to do that.
Yeah.
And like that's the kind of thing that the detractors of The Last Jedi always talk about, like that they wanted Luke to do something like that, and I'm like, that would have been cool, but I think the emotion works better in The Last Jedi. But I think you get both.
I'm a big fan. This might be the most like Force powers thing we've seen like in a Star Wars. Like there's Force powers, like Force pushing and fighting happening a lot in this show, which I'm a big fan of. I love using the Force as a weapon itself. We don't see that often.
Can't use it to save Tala, but you're right. They'll use it in combat for sure.
I do like how they. I don't know how often we've seen this, and maybe not very often. But I do like how Darth Vader specifically uses the Force to block a lightsaber.
Oh yeah.
I think that's a cool effect.
That's how good he is.
That's how good he is.
He has that level. That Reva fight is something, man.
Well, he does it to Obi-Wan also.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it's so clear. It's only so clear there just because, like, at first he's only using the Force.
Yeah.
To screw around with her. It's also more clear because it's more well lit.
Yeah. There's other things like when Obi-Wan. I wish we had more Obi-Wan. Like, I don't necessarily think training is the right answer I'm looking for. But there's the first fight between them, which is like Obi-Wan's disconnected. He's untrained. He doesn't know what he's doing. And then, I see your strength has returned. Yeah, because the last time we saw him use the Force, really, he was like struggling. Mm-hmm. So but now he can lift up a boulder.
Episode 4, he holds back the water. After that, does he use the Force a lot in Episode 5?
He does push Reva.
He takes out a bunch of stormtroopers. We don't see it, but he does it.
Okay.
So
And it's
I
not
assume
necessarily- I don't necessarily. I just think they ramp up to, oh, your strength has returned. Wasn't quite there for me.
Oh, no.
It's not necessarily
No,
a
I agree.
problem.
I agree with you. Yeah.
I will step back a little bit in the series to say that going back to how I wish episode 4 had played out, I wish that Riva and Obi-Wan had kind of gotten into it on the fortress for a bit, and Obi-Wan had been weaker, and he's like, I gotta like refocus up. If I can't fight Riva, I can't fight Vader. And I also think that would have served Riva's character better, because Riva, thinking that she can beat Obi-Wan, would also have the confidence to think she can beat Vader.
Yeah.
Which is like baffling that she thinks she can when Obi-Wan isn't there. I understand why she goes for it. I think it, like, you can read the subtext of it that like Riva has to attack Vader because like she just failed. So it's either now or never.
Yeah, she's about to get demoted. Yeah.
But it's like, you should have just gone with Obi-Wan's plan, because he's probably right. Like, if he would have been focused, you might have been able to get a shot at him.
I was excited. I thought that's the direction we were going.
No.
And I'm like, then they would have had like a team up, but like they don't actually like each other or something. Like, I was like, oh, okay, we're gonna get some of that. And then
Kind of like that one episode of Clone Wars where Obi-Wan teams up with Asajj Ventress.
Oh, you're speaking my
Yeah,
language.
so good.
Where's Asajj? Oh my god. When she shows up, wherever
Asajj
it is,
is
I'm gonna
dead.
lose my mind.
Asajj is dead.
No, I know, but she'll show up eventually in live action somewhere. I'm saying everyone does, and when it happens, I'm a cream.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? I was gonna
Also,
say.
book canon means nothing these days. So
I was gonna
did
say.
you know that Qui-Gon doesn't show up in corporeal form as a ghost to Obi-Wan until 3 years before A New Hope? Because that's in the new canon books.
Not anymore though.
In the new canon books.
Yep. Yep.
Interesting.
Yep. That's a Claudia Gray short story.
F those books.
Not no more though.
Sorry, Claudia.
So there's a bit
I
more
really
about
like that Leia gives Lola to Obi-Wan. I think that's cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cute. He's scared.
I want to say a bit more about the fight, which is that barring a line where Obi-Wan tries to like reach out to Vader, I kind of wish Obi-Wan went for a killing blow. Not necessarily like Luke does. Like Luke almost kills Vader in Return of the Jedi, but then pulls back. I kind of wish that we had a moment where Obi-Wan could like goes for it and then pulls back.
I think that would have been a good moment. Like after he does the slash on the face, he's ready to finish it, and then Anakin looks up and he finally sees his face. I think that actually would have been a powerful moment. Yeah.
There is kind of a question that I think like everyone walks out of like episode 3 Revenge of the Sith with, right? Where they're talking about sorry, Jeremy's just going behind us trying not to listen because he hasn't watched it yet. You walk out of episode 3 Revenge of the Sith with a question of like, how could Obi-Wan have not finished Anakin? Like everything Anakin does is kind of on him from this point. And the reality is that like Anakin couldn't kill him and then accepted that he probably died. Now you get to this point where he's like, Anakin is lost. It's only Darth Vader. And I'm just going to let that roam about the galaxy. And I'm like,
yeah.
Wait, is this okay?
Because like to see him to have that moment where I'm talking about, like hell, in a perfect world, they get both, where he reaches out and then goes for a killing blow, or vice versa. Where it's like you have this thing where he's like, where he goes in for that killing blow and he realizes I can't do it, and that's his weakness. That's his failure. That's Obi-Wan's failure. He has to live with that, which goes to A New Hope, where he's willing to die. Now in A New Hope, he's willing to die to be one with the Force, to kind of realize that this is the destiny, this is the path that I should be on.
Yeah,
like that would have been something.
Yeah,
that would have been nice to see. That would have been good.
I definitely got nervous when Vader buried him in the rocks. I'm like, if Vader just leaves and thinks Obi-Wan died, this is some weak ass shit.
He can walk down Main Street and detect that Obi-Wan's around, but he throws a bunch of rocks on him. He's like, definitely dead, walking away.
Well, what I mean is like I got nervous when the moment was happening that like this is how you leave it, right?
Yeah.
He thought Obi-Wan was dead until A New Hope.
Oh.
And because of this I thought that's what we were
Got
doing
you.
when he buried him in the rocks and left.
No.
I was like, so that's where we're going. But then there was more, and I was happy.
Yes,
but like I definitely got the fear.
Yeah.
I really wanted a line. I'm so sorry that I want this. I'll say that flat out. I apologize to all hell heaven that I wanted this line, but I wanted Darth Vader to go to Obi-Wan, to look at Obi-Wan down there and go, now I have the high ground.
You know what's funny?
The memes have been great ever since I saw a great meme where it's like it's a cut from Red, it says like I have the high ground, and then it's like, who's talking now, bitch?
The parallels between Revenge of the Sith fight and this, like, are there. Like, there are lines being repeated, like, I will do what I must, but Obi-Wan says at this time. Like, that's good shit. That's good shit. They could have done more of that. I'd be fine.
I think Obi-Wan said, I will do what I must in Revenge of the Sith.
Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry. Well, just repeating a line. Then,
but I think I can find the way between. We're just hypothesizing on fun things, but
We're
like
having fun.
I think I can find the way between what you wanted, Brandon, like what wouldn't be like too like winky, which would have been like if when Obi-Wan's first put down, like you see him about to like make the charge up, and Darth Vader goes, "Don't try it," and then shoves the rocks on top of him. I would have accepted that.
Honestly, that's what I thought. Something similar was going to happen when he gets buried by the cool thunder hand rock thing. I thought Obi-Wan was going to jump out and Anakin would go, "Not again," or like, "Not today," something like that. But he just walks into frame. Like, okay.
I also just want to point out how much I enjoyed seeing the 2-finger pose. That was good shit. Happy about that.
Of course.
I don't care for Reva. I don't know how much more I have to say outside of the ending.
I think the final conversation between Leia and Obi-Wan, I think, is really sweet.
Me too.
Yeah.
I was just glancing at my notes, which are for both 5 and 6, and I want to jump back a little bit. Tala's backstory is really good.
Yeah.
Which is how she talks about being in there and watching them kill kids and then feeling like responsible. Love Tala. Tala was such a blessing to this show. I wish she had gotten more useful character stuff. She comes out the more interesting character to me than Reva, because Reva doesn't get the attention that the character needs. Okay, so like Reva gets redemption possible at the end of the finale, and I just think that was the wrong choice.
Absolutely.
Star Wars loves a redemption story. I don't think we should always go for it, and I think with Reva it's a mistake. I think Reva's so consumed in her own sense of vengeance. Her hatred for both Vader and the Jedi is an interesting thing that frankly is underexplored in the show, but it does mean that like there shouldn't be salvation for the character. I again, like I stand by what I said earlier, like her end is when she fights Vader. That should have been the end, because like that is the conclusion that someone who has been responsible for the death and capture of so many Force sensitive people, all in the quest of her own vengeance, that should be the conclusion for her.
Absolutely.
I do
want to
go ahead.
Sorry, Vader has some amazing lines in this show. Yeah. And when he, like, of course, the "I am what you made me" line that's been quoted a bunch. But when he finally beats Reva and it says, "Did you really think I couldn't see it, youngling?" I'm like, that's just so cold. It's so good. And I would have been so happy if Reva's storyline just ended there and would have been all about Obi-Wan and Vader the next episode. So I want to bounce off that and just say, I think I don't believe that this is solely a re-speecher, because the emotion and the seething anger in Vader's voice and with everything that he says to Obi-Wan and Reva, I don't believe that's coming from just the re-speecher.
It's really good.
Well, so some people are saying that it's Hayden Christensen re-speeched to James Earl Jones.
See, that would make sense to me.
And I believe that, because there's some amount of it where I'm like, this sounds like Hayden. This sounds like his, and honestly makes me find it more valuable to have him.
Yes.
Because like it sounds like Anakin's emotions coming through in Vader's voice, which I really, really like. Yeah. So I'm this is one of the ones where I'm going to be really fascinated to get the behind the scenes gallery thing, because I really want to know if that specific tone is in there. I want to know how much like we were getting Hayden behind the mask, and like especially with like the voice. I do want to know if that was him. I hope they tell us, because I think that's really great.
Yeah. Brandon, you watch the behind the scenes stuff more than I do. Do they come out pretty quick after the season is released, or am I gonna be waiting like months to watch the Obi-Wan behind the scenes?
I think the longest you'll wait is probably a month.
Okay, cool. Because I am absolutely fascinated to see the behind the scenes of like how they talk about this show and the behind the scenes of it. You know?
Yeah, so, I'm very interested to see how they did the Vader voice. Because it's just it can't be what they did with Luke in Boba Fett. It just can't be. The difference in just emotion is ridiculous.
Right.
Yeah, it's like honestly,
it can't be that simple.
It's like the best James Earl Jones has sounded in years. Like honestly, like the emotion is for real. And I'm like, man, if that's a robot, shit, we're lost. Robots won.
so another thing, something I do want to point out is that as much as I dislike Reva's story in 6, as much as I don't like it, I do like some of the dialogue that is said to her. I do like some of the stuff that Obi-Wan, and like she says, I failed them. I couldn't do what I wanted to do. I couldn't beat Vader. I couldn't save them. I couldn't fix this wrong. And I do like that Obi-Wan has this moment where he says like, no, by not doing this, you've done this. Although I am confused. Did she want to kill Luke?
Yes.
See, that's the thing is like
Yes.
the motives are not clear. It doesn't really make sense why she chooses like I was just like my path for vengeance ended poorly. I guess I'll go kill this boy.
Yeah.
It's just all murky and bad. And frankly, for me, Brandon, like she has a line where she says, "Have I become him?" And I was like, yeah. I mean, like, yes. The answer is yes. Like, good on you for deciding now, like, oh, this child reminds me of me. But like the implication is that there have been many others that you have let slide.
Again, Leia, like she was torturing Leia to death almost.
And I'm like, you're not likable to me.
Yeah.
As the show has delivered you. So I'm like, I really like Moses Ingram. I have to stress that because like there's way too much like bullshit hatred just because of who she is that's being tossed her way. And I think her performance is good. The character's just underserved.
And again, I would have been totally satisfied if she was just a villain. She could just be a not super complex, but a badass villain trying to kill Vader in her own way. I'm happy with that. I'm totally happy with that.
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying. I'm only just kind of giving credit where I feel it's due because I do think the dialogue is well written, and I like what it's invoking. Again, go back to the school shooter situation. Like that's what Order 66 is invoking for Reva, and I actually think that's handled very pretty well. Everything kind of surrounding that, leading up to that dialogue, I don't disagree. I think you're dead on.
It's just so interesting, like if we're using like the school shooter parallel, like then she's going to become a school shooter.
Yeah, that's the part where
I can't it's not good. It's not good.
I don't want to belabor the point too much. Yeah. So I think kind of giving credit where credit is due, where a storyline doesn't quite work for me. I do think that the ending where this is kind of a double-edged sword, much like with Reva. Like again, I'm not disagreeing.
She has a double sword, actually.
I'm not disagreeing with anything any of you guys are saying. I'm just there's things that I like within things that I don't like, and I feel the need to just kind of say what those are. For example, I like the scene between Owen and Obi-Wan. At the end, I like that Obi-Wan. Like I like that Obi-Wan comes to Luke's rescue. Immediately, I'm gonna go check in the dune sea. I'm gonna go find her, and I'm gonna go find him. And I like the end when he's leaving his cave and he's wearing the comic costume, which I thought was cute.
Yeah.
And Owen still doesn't trust him. Still kind of like not clear on his role there. Says do you want to meet him? And I like that they have that moment where Luke and Ben get to meet, because I never bought that they didn't meet in A New Hope. Right. I always got the impression that they did.
For sure.
And so like and she says hello there, which of course I loved.
It's a good scene. I have no problem.
I think that's good. Now to kind of put in a negative bit. So Obi-Wan is not going to watch over Luke anymore? Well, because he says, I'm going to leave. You're not going to hear from me again. You're right. He needs to be a boy.
Well, he says, I'm going to keep my distance. And you're right. He needs to be a boy. I think he's close. Like, he sensed Luke was in danger from space. So I think like just a little ways out into the Dune Sea, like we're okay. Like he can get there if he really needs to.
We got Star Wars fast travel. Anyone could be anywhere in 3 seconds. So like, he's not really that far, no matter how far away he is.
Yeah, I think that the implication of just like, I don't know. It's kind of one of those things. I don't really know where I want to go with this. I don't know where I want to go with the story. Like I don't know. It was one of those things that was just kind of weird to me, but in something that I quite liked. But there's another thing that I wanted to bring up around that. I do appreciate the implication that Obi-Wan, because he says to Bail, anything you need. And I get that's leading to Rogue One, where Bell says, "I'm gonna go get Obi-Wan," which leads to A New Hope. I do like the implication that perhaps there was more times that Obi-Wan went to help the begrudging rebellion.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't need it.
I'm not saying I need it. I'm just saying I like the idea that Obi-Wan had a slightly, not big, a slightly more active role in the beginnings of the rebellion because of Bail Organa, and that kind of gives me more. That kind of gives me more interest. Not interest. More. What's the word?
Insight?
No. It kind of creates this sense of like. It I think it helps the moment in Rogue One where he says, "This man's never let me down before," and he goes to Alderaan to find to Obi-Wan. I'm not saying that I need another season where he's doing another mission. I'm just saying that I think the implication there I like.
Yeah, I like the scene on Alderaan. I think it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of the concluding scenes I thought were strong.
I do too.
Yeah.
I think it's funny that Obi-Wan is like, "Owen, take care of the boy now, won't you?" It's like, what do you think I've been doing for 10 years, dude? Like, I think that scene could have been written a little bit better, to be honest, in my opinion.
Ben, you came out real hot and heavy saying you love episode 6. Tell me about how much you love the Reva storyline on Tatooine.
I don't.
Oh, okay. Well, that's half the episode. So you loved half the episode, Ben.
Yeah, I love half the episode. It was the Obi-Wan and Anakin. It was the Obi-Wan and Vader stuff that I loved the most. That was the stuff that got me super high. Also, what Brandon was saying about, I love how when Jimmy Smits is talking, when the ending scene between Leia and the Organas, I really enjoyed that. And then that really good moment between Obi-Wan and Leia about him telling how she got her traits from her parents. It's like, because that just shows how highly Obi-Wan thought of Padme and Anakin. And of course,
I love that.
I mean, yes, I do love when Obi-Wan finally says hello there to Luke, and he officially meets Luke for the first time. Because I was also in the same camp Brandon was, that in A New Hope, Luke knew who Ben was.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the cameo from Liam Neeson.
I knew you were going to go there, but I want to stop you because I have a lot to say about that. I wanted to add that I do really like how the show has expanded on the fact that, from again Return of the Jedi, Leia knew she was adopted.
Mm-hmm.
Like she always knew she was adopted, and I like that we've expanded on that. That she still remembers Padme, because that's Force users have that long of a memory they can remember their birth sometimes, and we have more of a sense that, like, yeah, I mean, Obi-Wan told her just a bit to kind of give her, like, some that kind of closure to really like embrace being an Organa.
Ewan McGregor's doing a really good job of that moment. In general, he's doing a great job throughout the show. Like, he's not phoning anything in. He's doing great. But like sharing the bit about, these things you got from your mom and these things you got from your father.
They're gifts.
They were both exceptional, and I loved them. Like, I thought that was really nice.
Yeah.
Since Ben, you brought up Qui-Gon.
I blinked, so I didn't see him. Sorry.
Look, I'm really happy that Qui-Gon was in the show. Qui-Gon's my favorite. I love him. I love Liam Neeson. I'm really happy to see that happened. I don't. The reason why. So okay, I've been bouncing around this, but I feel pretty strongly that I need a second season. Not necessarily like need, but in a sense of like, this did not satisfy me. This show did not satisfy me, and I want more because of that. And I don't want to be there. I don't want to be in a place where I'm not satisfied with this limited series, that I want more, because I don't want more. I don't want there to be more. But because I'm not satisfied, I have an instinct. I have an instinct within me that says, please give me more to satisfy me, because you didn't.
Yeah, that is an absolute fair feeling. You're more of a prequel guy than I am, so you want more young Obi-Wan. I don't. This was, if they were going to do multiple seasons of Obi-Wan, you don't start with Vader, right? Because like, no matter what the second season is, and it could be good, I personally, no matter how good it is, I just don't care if it's him just helping out spice people or water people or the rebellion. Like, for me, this was what the Obi-Wan show should have been, and they had their opportunity to do it, and they didn't do it. So they
did a chunk of it.
The Vader stuff, like that final episode is basically what I wanted. It just took a long time to get there. So for me, I don't want more, because there's no more satisfaction I could get, because the things they tried to do, they already did. You know what I mean? The only thing they would get was more Qui-Gon, and him just going, "We have more to do, Obi-Wan. Hope you didn't blink." Like that is such a tease. That is, like, I think, unfair. Because, like, now you're like, oh, now I can't wait for the second season of Qui-Gon. I'm like, I think that's bad expectations put on from the studio.
I think also, just bouncing off of that, like, it felt like the whole season was kind of playing, like, right from the recap where they bring up Qui-Gon.
Yes.
That it's playing with and eventually Qui-Gon will be there one of the times he calls out, and you keep kind of waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and then you get to the very end of the show and they're like, and here he is, Qui-Gon,
in a terrible beard.
Aren't you happy, fans? We've given him to you. And what does he have to say? There's more to do. Yay! And I'm like, yeah, I'm happy to see him.
I get the idea of, like, you know, okay, now I'm going to train you to become a Force ghost like I did, because that's the thing, like, right? You know, it's Qui-Gon is the reason why Obi-Wan went from the 2-finger point to the stance he has that we see in Rebels. Like, that's because Qui-Gon trained him on Tatooine. And we don't get any of that. And I don't like Ryan, I understand that I get how you feel. Like, I don't want another season. I don't want to want another season. I don't need it. But because of how this ends, specifically with Qui-Gon, I am left with coming out of a movie that I know is a trilogy, thinking to myself, hey, can't wait for the next one. And that's not the place I wanted to be at the end of the show. And therefore I am left very unsatisfied. And I'm really concerned that in a month, I'm going to really hate this show because of that.
I feel that I'm definitely not there. Cause I do think the stuff that you really come here for is that Obi-Wan Vader stuff. And I think at the end of the day, that stuff is good. Mm-hmm. I can leave everything else out, because honestly, it's not important. It's really not. I got great Leia and I got great Vader. That's all I need.
Surprisingly
great Leia. I love, especially, like, I feel like Leia gets better and better. That little girl's acting is so good, especially, like, she's so good at, like, not crying, like you know, holding it back. She's so good at that. But I am with you, Brandon. Like, if they announce the second season, it's not going to be like I'm going to not watch it. But I'm just like, there's nothing for me in the story that I want to see.
I mean, because, like, you know, what is Qui-Gon doing? Essentially what it was is that Obi-Wan had closed himself off to the Force, and now he's opened himself to it, and he has to learn a different way to be a Jedi. Mm-hmm. And the different way will be learned by being with Qui-Gon. But I don't necessarily need a show of that, especially because I don't think they'll get Neeson back enough for it.
Because honestly, like, what is because it's just him meditating a lot. That's how
you guys keep saying you guys keep using the word need. And I want to be absolutely 100% clear, because I feel like you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. And perhaps this is just me. I don't need a second season. I don't want a second season. I hate the fact that this season has left me unsatisfied, which is the bottom line. I am so unsatisfied that there's a hunger that I didn't want to be there.
No, I hear you. I'm expressing my perspective, not countering to yours. Which is, like, frankly, the fundamental core of why I think there should be no second season is that the show was not written to have a second season. It was not designed that way. And because it was not designed that way, and everything is done in a way where I don't think it needed to be, to have a little, like, perfect, absolutely every little string has been tied for the next 9 years to get us to A New Hope. If you don't watch anything else, there shouldn't be a second season. The Qui-Gon thing to me feels far more like and here for you fans is a little cherry right on top to make you happy, rather than like a tease setup of what could be.
That's why it pisses me off.
Sure, I get that. Being unsatisfied with the amount of Qui-Gon that was given to the show is reasonable. I think being unsatisfied with the amount of Hayden Christensen Anakin Vader development that was given to the show is also valid. I think I was telling Ryan this, that we've run into another marketing problem where I wish the show had never revealed that Hayden Christensen was appearing in this, and it had been a surprise.
That would have been.
I wish that this had been a show about that we thought going into it this was a show about Inquisitors and Obi-Wan, and had no idea Vader would be appearing.
I'm starting to feel myself get frustrated with the show, not with you guys, with the show, and this is why I'm concerned that in a month from now I'm probably going to really dislike the show, and I don't want to be there. And I feel like I'm running into this problem with just Disney Plus in general, as I said about episode 5, where it's just like the way these shows are structured, the way they decide to use their time, I don't think is smart. I don't think it was smart to use Reva in the 6th episode. I think you could have done anything else. And quite honestly, I think there are places. I don't want to beleaguer the Qui-Gon point too much, because it's ridiculous to want Qui-Gon in the show. I understand that it's absolutely ridiculous, regardless of whether or not I'm a prequelist or not. But the fact of the matter is, from the jump, that this show has the thing. I'm going to teach you how to commune with Qui-Gon, and then we only ever get, he's reaching out to Qui-Gon and he never gets out. And there are specifically, I can think offhand, 3 moments that would have been really good moments to have Qui-Gon appear. They don't.
I agree completely. Like, I think
there are 3 in the last episode alone.
I think that's bad plotting, is that they set you up to be looking for him and they don't give him to you until the very last second.
Literally the last second.
And I'm really sick of Disney Plus TV shows. I'm really sick of it, because I'm sick of every single time this happens. And it's getting to the point where I might honestly unsubscribe, because this is getting ridiculous.
Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness now on Disney Plus, so I'm not.
I will buy that in July.
Okay. I'm definitely not at the point you are. I just because I'll always take things case by case, but like it's absolutely a point where like shit's got to change. And if like they're not doing it now,
that's the thing. That's what I'm talking about. Shit's got to change, but they have shown no interest in doing that.
It's weird. It is really odd that we are how many Marvel shows in and how many Disney shows. But again, The Mandalorian's different. So why did they choose the Marvel method for this? That's so confusing. If anything, like Chernobyl had 5 episodes. That's an epic mini. Like cut out episode 4, and then you'll have a 5-episode miniseries, right? Like
honestly, after Boba Fett, I'm not looking forward to Mandalorian.
Yeah.
I am looking forward to Andor though.
Oh,
I told Ryan this, that like Andor has my interest peaked, because I'm like, this is something where they've clearly given it a lot of thought, because it was one of the first announced shows and it's taken this long to get it. I think there's more creative juices going into Andor than there seems to be into these other endeavors.
Rogue One is different than other Star Wars movies, because like it's not particularly made for kids. It is like a war spy, like, drama where people get murdered and shit, right? So like Andor being more of that, I'm really excited for that. I'm really excited for like some real like human drama, because the few times it happens in Obi-Wan where Ewan McGregor is truly acting, like the I'm so sorry Anakin at the end where he's crying, that's the best. That's like one of the best scenes in the whole show, right? Yeah. I thought this show was going to be the Vader Obi-Wan drama show, and now at this point I shouldn't expect that, but like I really thought I was going to get some emotional heady shit from these 2 characters, and I guess if I want that, I go to the animated shows, I guess,
or the comics.
Yeah. It's just weird that this should have been the epic finale that we've been waiting 15 years for, and it was mostly good.
I remember the high moment of episode 3 where you see Anakin on the mountain and you're like, oh, they're gonna do it.
Yeah,
they're gonna go for it.
Back when we had A New Hope. Yeah.
I understand that I'm coming in hot right now, but this was the one that I was most excited for when Star Wars was starting to do these shows. This was the one that I was like, this could break me if it's bad, and I think I'm trying to not let it break me.
That's fair. Like, luckily I don't think it's as bad as Boba Fett. I think there was a lot of really great.
No, I don't think it's as bad as Boba Fett, but time
to wake up.
I don't give a shit about Boba Fett like I do Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
I'm gonna answer this, I guess.
Sure.
Ben, you got anything while Brandon's on the phone?
Yeah, I do. So, I understand where Brandon's coming from, but for me, the Qui-Gon moment was like the cherry that ended it. Because to me, I don't see this as like a tease, like, hey, this is the lead into season 2. To me, this is like, cool, let's start the training for the line of like, strike me down, I should become more powerful than you ever imagined. That's how I interpreted that scene. So for me, seeing Qui-Gon at the very end was like this is the end of Obi-Wan. I don't need a second season. I got what I wanted.
Well, but then, like, more of the point of what Brandon was saying is that the show tricks you into constantly looking for him and doesn't deliver. Right. Not really. Like, let's be honest. Like, it's fun to see him and everything, but like thematically to the narrative, it's like, come on. There's nothing more dumb than the line of like, I was always here. You just didn't see me. And it's like, he was calling for you while fighting Anakin, man. Like, at least give a line of dialogue.
Ben, I know you've watched the original trilogy a lot. Remember in A New Hope at the end when he's doing the Death Star trench run and he is stressed out of his mind because he has to do a 1 in a million shot.
Yeah,
and then Obi-Wan's voice is there to use the Force to help him. And that happens so many times in other movies of the franchise where under duress, the Force guides you.
Mm-hmm.
Why wasn't this? Why didn't they do that? It's just like such a missed opportunity. I'm kind of shocked. Like it's just like it felt lazy.
Frankly, it only made sense when I thought they weren't going to get Neeson at all.
Yeah,
and then they did have him. I'm like, you couldn't have had him record a line or two just to like toss in a little earlier.
If they honestly, I would have taken a line earlier. Not even seeing him, I would have taken a line earlier. But like, it got to the point where once he was walking away from Tatooine, I was like, oh, well, I guess they couldn't get Liam Neeson. And quite honestly, I would have been happier with that.
Honestly, right. I would have been too. Because that would have been like, oh, like the expectation was there, but like, oh, they didn't feel required to do it. But then they were required to do it, so.
It was a payoff that honestly pissed me off.
Yeah, and someone who's not really a huge Qui-Gon fan, like, it didn't bother me as much, but like, this is a moment, not just the Vader stuff, like the Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan stuff, fans have been waiting for since Revenge of the Sith, right?
And the show's projecting it.
And the show projects it from the get-go with that prequel trailer they show.
And multiple times of him calling out to him. Like it's telling you like, hey, this has to pay off somehow.
Yeah.
And it doesn't pay off into the story. It just pays off as like a button.
Yeah.
I think there's more positives than negatives. The negatives are just so
apparent,
glaring and disappointing. I think for multiple reasons, just because like you want this to be so great, you want it to be so great from end to end.
Yeah.
You want all that like Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor goodness. You get told in the marketing that you're getting Hayden Christensen, which sets certain expectations that the show just
he does so much marketing.
You get Moses Ingram coming in as this character who is cool and is interesting, but they just fumble the bag with her entirely. They waste the appearance live action wise of Grand Inquisitor to the point where it's bafflingly confusing. I'm like, those things are there, but the core of McGregor's performance,
Leia,
of Obi-Wan, of Leia, the surprise, like runaway wonder of the show, Tala, and when you do have Vader and you do have Christensen as him, all is such a high that it kind of like
it evens out,
brings it to like, all right, we're cool with some like, but we're cool.
I want to get there, and I hope I do. I'm just the frustration I'm feeling right now. The frustration I tried not to feel last night after watching it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious where I will land on the show.
I have a feeling you will land more positive on it as time goes on. As like, you know, you just have time to like decompress, because like I get like you're so hot after watching something that like makes you mad. Like I get that. But I feel like if you maybe watch this again in the future, like the Obi-Wan stuff is incredible. It's really good. And like I think the baseline show is good. It's just got a lot of shitty things surrounding it. I think overall it is a good show. And sometimes like that's okay. Like not everything can be great, and that's a bummer. It's unfortunate that this is the one that everyone expected to be the one, and it wasn't.
It took them so long to make this.
Yeah.
Like they announced this 3 years ago.
Yeah. Pablo Hidalgo, is that the guy's name?
Yeah.
He found his first email, and it's from like 2017 when like let's
start
talk about doing the Obi-Wan movie, and that's 5 years ago. And I'm like, man, and who knows, maybe that movie was like a worse version because it was doing stuff with Luke. Like you know what I mean? Like maybe this is the better version that we got.
Hey man, I'd rather have this than them like retread the Maul stuff. And wipe out Rebels.
No, 100%. I'm with
redo
you.
it or fixate on Luke too much. Like I'm still happy neither of those things happened.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's get out of here. I'm done.
Ben, any final thoughts?
No, not really.
Okay.
Ben's like, I don't want to compete in this market of y'all.
I'm really sorry I came off hot, by the way, especially to Ben. I know that Ryan and Sparkz are a little bit more, not quite as hot as I am, but a little bit more there. Ben, I'm very sorry I came off as hot as I did.
No, dude, my feelings were just different from yours, and that happens.
Brandon, I'd rather you be passionate than not care.
Yeah.
Always.
Ben
Sometimes I feel
got his Vader Obi-Wan and he said, Reva who? I don't even give a crap.
Check
All
mark,
right.
check mark. Got him, baby.
Why don't we get out of here then? Why don't we end this?
Oh,
right.
we saw the Emperor. That was nice.
Oh,
yeah,
we did.
That was nice.
You know, I thought I thought we would see him in this. I was like, if it ever made sense for him to be in something, it would be this.
Mhm.
And I do like how that ties into how we see Vader's mindset in A New Hope, because he's a lot calmer in A New Hope than he is in here. And and we know that Palpatine can manipulate him and be like, oh, if you're weak, my friend, then perhaps we have to part ways and blah blah blah. And he's like, no, I'm fine.
Nah, Obi-Wan Kenobi? What? No, man.
This doesn't bother me at all. I will not go looking for him. I kind of wish there had been right after the call ended, he did the thing where he destroys something with the Force in the room.
Yeah.
Just kind of hint nah, he's still a little pissed.
It's always nice to see Ian McDermott as the Emperor. He's a very fun performance, even if I don't always agree with where they put him.
Yeah.
All right. So why don't we end this?
Wrap it up.
So that's it. That's Victor's watch for Obi-Wan Kenobi. That was an enjoyable ride. The next Star Wars Victor's watch, I believe, is probably Andor. Correct?
It's
2 months away.
August 31st.
So stay tuned for that. Of course, there's other Fake Nerds watches if you're interested, such as Miss Marvel, which has a new episode out, first episode out now. Strange New Worlds, Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Stranger Things, The Boys, and Umbrella Academy will be coming soon.
Mm-hmm.
Most likely. That show just dropped, so we'll see what we can do.
Sometime within the next month.
Yeah. But we will do it because we like that show quite a bit.
Yeah.
And there's others that I can't recall at this point.
No, I think you covered all that we're doing right now.
All right. Check out those shows. Some of them have episodes, some of them don't. So, check it out if you like this video and you subscribe to this channel. You can also check out other shows such as Basement Arcade Pause Menu, which just put up a new episode for the Summer Games Fest. That now exists as an audio episode as well. I finally got that one up there. And you can also check out Fake Nerd Book Club and Animation Station, all of which are on this channel. Very, very cool. You can like this video, subscribe to this channel. What else do you do? Hey, why don't you check out our TeePublic, and why don't you check out our Patreon? Both of those links are down below. Excuse me. You can check out, you can support us financially if you'd like, or you can find all the links on our website at fakenerdpodcast.com, which is also linked below. You can find us on social media, all at Fake Nerd Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. I'm a BT McClure on Instagram and Twitter. You can also find my writings on Screen Rant. Atomic Geekdom, where I do Infinity Saga recaps in a series that I do, and I edit for KaijuRamaMedia.com. Ben?
You can find me on the internet at BenMagnet27 on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and you can also find me writing for Old School Gamer Magazine, Fusion Gaming Magazine, and GoNintendo.com.
Ryan?
You can find me everywhere on the internet at DJ Tony Snark 616. Also live on Twitch at DJ Tony Snark 616.
And Sparkz.
You can find me not searching for Kenobi at Sparkzwitty on Instagram and Twitter, SPARKZ Witty.
All right, guys. Like this video, subscribe to this channel. Oh, find our podcast. Find the Fake Nerd Podcast. It's live every Sunday. The latest episode that went out was what was the movie we did? Lightyear. We did Lightyear, guys. That was fun. And coming up, The Black Phone. You can find that show every Sunday night. All right. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. Until next time I see us, guys, stay fake nerds. Oops, we're live.
Yeah.